Today, we're going to talk about a book that's, well, it's more than just a book. It's a journey into the human mind. We're talking about Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. This is his own story of surviving the Nazi concentration camps and figuring out, in the absolute worst circumstances imaginable, what it is that actually keeps a person going. And this right here, this is the question at the heart of the whole thing. It's not some philosophical thought experiment, you know? This question comes from a place of having lost everything. Frankl himself was a psychiatrist who lived through this. So when he asks this, man, it just hits you. It really gets to the very core of what it means to be human. So, how did he even begin to answer that? Well, we've got to follow his journey. See, Frankl was a trained psychiatrist, so even in the middle of all this horror, he was observing. He was analyzing his own experiences and the experiences of those around him. And he saw that the psychological journey of a prisoner happened in three really distinct phases. And that's exactly what we're going to walk through in this explainer. All right, let's start at the beginning. Phase 1. This kicks in the second a prisoner gets to a camp, like Auschwitz. And the first overwhelming feeling, it's just one word: shock. And what's so fascinating is how Frankl describes this shock. It wasn't just pure terror. He said it was also this weird, detached, cold curiosity. He said people held on to what he called an illusion of reprieve. It's this desperate, grasping hope that maybe, just maybe, it won't be as bad as the rumors. You know, they'd see some prisoners who looked kind of healthy, and that tiny little observation would fuel this really fragile hope. Yeah, that hope didn't last long. It was shattered almost instantly. The moment you arrive, they take everything. Your papers, your ID, your name, your job, your entire past. Poof, gone. It was a systematic process of stripping you of who you were until you were just a number. Dr. Viktor Frankl, the respected psychiatrist? Nope. He became prisoner number 119104. And this process of dehumanization was just brutally efficient. They took your stuff, your clothes, they even shaved your head. But for Frankl, the thing that hit the hardest, he had a scientific manuscript hidden in his coat pocket. This wasn't just some notes, it was his life's work. And in a second, it was gone. So what's left after all that? It's this incredibly stark realization. You've been shaved, disinfected, stripped of every single thing that made you, you. And all you're left with is, well, your bare existence. Just this ridiculously naked life, as he put it. That's it. That's all you have. Okay, so once that initial shock starts to wear off, a prisoner moves into the second phase. And this is the longest one. This is the phase of apathy. And this is a huge psychological shift. You go from that hope and morbid curiosity of phase 1 to what Frankl literally calls an emotional death. But here's the key. This apathy, it wasn't weakness. It was the complete opposite. It was a necessary defense mechanism. It was like growing a protective shell to survive the day-to-day horror. I mean, you had to become numb just to get through the day. Frankl talks about watching these unbelievably brutal things happen and not even flinching. There's this one chilling story he tells. He's just sipping his watery soup, and a guard drags the body of a dead prisoner right past him. And he felt nothing. Disgust, pity, horror. He said those were luxuries, emotions he just couldn't afford to feel anymore. And this is so important. The things that really destroyed a person, the deepest wounds, they weren't always physical. Frankl noticed that what truly broke a man's spirit was the insult, the mental agony of it all, the injustice. Yeah, a beating hurts, but the sheer irrationality of being treated as less than human, that's what did the most damage. But here's where it gets really incredible. Out of this total numbness, this state where you have absolutely nothing, Frankl discovered something completely paradoxical. Right there, in the place where he had lost everything, he found the one thing that nobody could ever take away from him. And this is it. This is the core message of the entire book. They can control everything on the outside, your body, where you go, your fate, but there is one thing they can't touch. The last of the human freedoms, your ability to choose your own attitude in any given situation. You get to choose how you respond on the inside. That's a freedom they can never take. Once he realized that, it changed everything. The game wasn't about trying to avoid suffering anymore. That was impossible, right? The new goal was to find meaning in the suffering, to see it as just a part of life. And surviving? Well, that depended entirely on finding a purpose, a reason for it all. Frankl loved to quote the philosopher Nietzsche, and this one quote just nails it perfectly. He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how. Think about that. If a prisoner had a why, a reason to keep going, like thinking about seeing a loved one again, or finishing a project, or just their faith, they could somehow endure the horrific how of camp life. So this incredible, life-changing insight, it wasn't just something he thought about in the camps. It became the foundation for the rest of his life's work. He actually developed it into a whole new type of psychotherapy. He called it logotherapy.
And logotherapy is different. A lot of therapy looks backwards, at past traumas. Logotherapy is future-oriented. It's all about finding meaning. And, it's not just for people who have gone through extreme trauma. It's incredibly powerful for what he called the existential vacuum. That feeling of emptiness or meaninglessness that so many of us can feel today, the thing that leads to burnout and just checking out.
And this idea really set him apart from guys like Sigmund Freud. See, Freud thought our main drive as humans was the will to pleasure. We're all just trying to feel good. But Frankl came along and said, no, that's not it. He argued our most fundamental drive is the will to meaning. And he believed a lot of the anxiety we see in the world doesn't come from frustrated desires, but from a deep, frustrating search for purpose. So in the end, Frankl's work, which was literally forged in one of the darkest places in human history, it turns this incredibly powerful question back on us. It makes you look in the mirror and ask, not what do I want from life, but what is life asking of me? So, what is it? What's your purpose? What's your why?